Welcome to the Explainer. If you're building applications, training AI models, or running large-scale SEO campaigns, you already know that search data is absolutely invaluable. But here's the catch. When you're shopping for a tool to extract that data, the advertised pricing, it's almost always just the tip of the iceberg. What looks like an amazing deal on a vendor's pricing page can quickly become a literal budget-draining nightmare once you actually start running your queries. So today, we're going to break down exactly how to navigate these pricing models and find the true bottom-line best value for your data needs in 2026. Let's get into it.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We are going to cover demystifying SERP APIs, common business use cases, decoding API billing structures, uncovering hidden pricing factors, and finally, calculating your true effective cost.
All right, Part 1, Demystifying SERP APIs. Let's establish a baseline of what we're looking at on the surface.
Okay, let's dive right in. SERP, of course, stands for Search Engine Results Page, and a SERP API is essentially a tool that lets you or your dev team programmatically retrieve those search engine results and get them handed back as neatly structured data. Usually that's going to be in JSON format. The real beauty of this technology, it completely replaces the massive headache of building and maintaining your own custom web scrapers. You don't have to panic and update your code every time a search engine tweaks its layout. You just send a request, and the API provider handles all the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
And just look at the sheer wealth of raw data you can instantly unlock with a single API call. We aren't just talking about your standard 10 blue organic links anymore. You can pull paid results to see exactly what your competitors are spending ad money on. You can grab highly specific local and map results, page titles, detailed snippets, and even specialized vertical searches like image, news, and shopping results. It is, for sure, an absolute goldmine of structured data.
Moving right along to Section 2, Common Business Use Cases. How does all this data actually translate into value?
Well, whether you're an SEO professional tracking thousands of keywords or a data engineer building the next big machine learning model, this data is literally the lifeblood of modern market intelligence. Businesses use it every single day for continuous SEO monitoring, deep competitor research, generating localized leads, and running massive data analysis ops. And obviously, a huge trend we're seeing in 2026 is the immense volume being driven by the need to train complex AI applications on real-time search trends.
But here is the critical thing to remember. The quote-unquote best pricing depends heavily on your scale. If you're running a small SEO project, say 50,000 requests a month, your ideal provider is going to look very, very different from an enterprise platform processing 10 million requests. As you move up this chart, the cost per thousand requests shifts dramatically, and your infrastructure demands change completely. So keep your own project-specific scale in mind as we go through this.
Okay, Section 3, Decoding API billing structures. Time to dip just below the surface.
So, there is no single industry-wide standard for how you get billed for this data. Providers generally fall into a few different camps. We've got per request, where you literally pay for each API call, great for highly predictable workloads. Then we have credit-based. This gives you a pool of credits, and depending on how complex your request is, it might eat up 1 credit or it might eat up 20. Then there's pay-as-you-go for totally variable, unpredictable needs, and your standard monthly subscriptions for fixed allowances. You can probably spot the tension here right away, right? Predictability, like a fixed monthly fee, often competes directly with the flexibility of a pay-as-you-go or a credit system.
Now, if you just want a quick back-of-the-napkin comparison between two different plans, here's your baseline formula. You take the monthly plan cost, divide it by the included requests, and multiply by 1,000. This gives you your cost per 1,000 requests. So if a plan is $100 for 50,000 requests, that's $2 per 1,000. It's simple math. But actually, scratch that. As we're about to see, relying on this formula alone is incredibly dangerous if you don't know what's lurking beneath the water.
Which brings us to Section 4, Uncovering Hidden Pricing Factors. This is where budgets secretly go to die.
Remember those credit-based systems we just talked about? Well, like I said, one request does not always equal 1 credit. If you want to use a premium residential proxy network to avoid getting blocked, that might cost extra credits. Need specific geographic targeting? Extra credits. Want mobile rendering or specialized news searches? Extra credits. The absolute crucial point here is this. If a plan advertises 1 million credits, but your specific type of advanced search consumes 10 credits per request, you actually only bought 100,000 requests. See how fast that budget vanishes? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how sticker prices can completely mislead you. Provider A advertises an incredibly cheap $1 per 1,000 requests.
Provider B is 20% more expensive at $1.20. But look at the success rate. Provider A fails 20% of the time. Provider B almost never fails. If you go with Provider A, you're going to have to send significantly more requests, spend way more time handling errors, and write much more complex code just to get the exact same amount of usable data. Suddenly, that cheaper sticker price is a terrible deal.
To protect yourself, you really need to put on your investigator hat and demand some transparency from these vendors. Before you hand over a credit card, you must ask, are you charging me for failed requests? If an API call hits a CAPTCHA and fails, does the system automatically retry? And more importantly, am I being billed for that retry? What happens when a connection simply times out? You want a provider that gives you crystal clear answers and ideally some form of a success rate guarantee. Another massive hidden fee trap is geographic targeting. Search engines show entirely different results to a user in Tokyo than they do to a user in New York. That's just a fact. So, if your project requires localized data, you have to check if granular targeting, like getting down to the specific city or region level, is included in the base price, or if it triggers heavy hidden fees. You also have to factor in the whole infrastructure debate. Broadly speaking, you've got two choices. The first is a managed SERP API. This offers really fast setup. It automatically handles all the proxy rotation, the IP blocks, and the retries for you, but you pay a premium for that convenience. The alternative is to build your own scraper. This gives you complete control and much lower costs at high volumes, but you take on the huge burden of buying and maintaining your own data center or residential proxies. If scraping isn't your core business, the managed API is almost always worth a premium. But if you're pulling tens of millions of records, building your own with reliable proxies is usually the way to scale.
Section 5, Calculating True Effective Cost. Let's give you the ultimate compass to navigate API pricing. So after everything we've looked at today, the success rates, the hidden credit multipliers, the infrastructure choices, the big question remains, how do we actually calculate the real cost? It breaks down into 3 highly logical steps. Step 1, add up all of the total monthly fees. That means the base subscription, the extra credits for your geo-targeting, and any anticipated overage charges. Step 2, calculate the number of purely successful results you expect to get based on the provider's historic success rate, adjusting for any of those credit multipliers. Step 3, divide that total realistic cost by your total successful results. This right here gives you your true effective cost per successful request. Let's actually apply that calculation. This brilliantly illustrates the point. Provider A is the cheapest at $500, offering 500,000 requests, but they have a 90% success rate, meaning you only walk away with 450,000 actual usable results. If your business strictly requires 500,000 results this month, Provider A literally cannot get the job done without forcing you into overage fees. Provider B costs more upfront at $600, but their 98% success rate nets you 588,000 usable results. And Provider C costs the most, but gives you massive, incredibly reliable volume. You have to buy based on the volume of data you actually need to receive, not just the sticker price on the website. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to take away today. Is your cheapest API actually your most expensive data source? I strongly encourage you to take a hard look at your current API usage, run the effective cost calculation we talked about today, and see if you're really getting the value you think you are. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay focused, and I will see you next time.